and welcome to the latest edition of the GUTSY podcast. Today is...
Today's not your day to talk about. Today is your day, but we're flipping the tables today, aren't we?
We are.
What's happening today, Derek?
Right, so I've not got the introduction then. Right, okay, so what's happening today is that I'm going to tell my story.
Mm-hmm. And who are you going to tell it to?
Everybody that will listen. Probably the lowest ratings on the history and the young history of GUTSY podcast.
Definitely not. I'm going to be nice to you for the first half.
Okay.
So obviously I'm interviewing you today. You interviewed me the last time.
We never interviewed, we chatted.
We chatted.
And it was good.
It was good fun. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of my favourite interviews that I've ever done, so I hope that it feels that way for you.
Oh, you say all the right things.
Just like compliments before we've begun.
Well, the fact of the matter is you're back, so...
Back.
You're back.
Tell me this, right, how does it feel for you? Because obviously you're so used to asking other people questions. How does it feel for you to be answering them this time?
Aye.
Does it feel weird?
I've not really thought about it. I obviously a bit of role reversal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see it as asking. I honestly have seen, first and foremost, it's been a brilliant experience to date.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. I think the stories that have been on have been really inspiring, people that I really admire as well. Including yourself.
Myself, obviously.
Ouch.
Top of the list.
But it's, so for that point of view, it's just been, kind of conversation with your pals, but that's got a bit of purpose, obviously.
I think that's the nicest thing. Like when you asked me to do this, the nicest thing for me was the first time I met you, I felt like, I know you hate like stuff about past lives and all that, but I feel like I've met you before in a different life. And whenever I see you, there's...
You've been unlucky again.
Like, I know, second time round. But it's like, it feels a bit like we'll get to the end of our time together and be like, oh Christ, we've got more to say. So it's quite nice because I really want to know more about you, your mum, the charity, like all the things that I don't know, I want to know. And I'm sure the listeners want to know that as well. So it's kind of nice that we're doing it. No,
it is nice. And I think when the idea was put to us, or put to me, I never thought about it, but it made perfect sense.
Total sense.
Because a lot of people within the Catherine McEwan Foundation community will know a bit about my story. Mm-hmm. They'll know a bit about Catherine's, my mum's story. But loads of people who watch this are watching from all over who they don't know me for anybody. Yeah. And it's just like, all right, here's this guy. What's he doing there?
What's he up to?
What's he doing? What's the point of him being? I suppose
it's like, it's so personal to you as well, which is what I think is lovely about it. And I think that if people don't know about your mum, like I don't know about your mum, I know that the charity is in honour of your mum, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know about your mum, so that's a good place to start, right?
Okay.
So, forget about the disease for a minute. You started the charity for your mum. Tell me about your mum. What was she like?
That's a good question. My mum was my hero, truth be told, because my mum had me at a young age, and she'd already been diagnosed for maybe 4 or 5 years at that point. So I've lived with Crohn's disease in my life in some way, shape or form.
Since you were really young? Since
I was born. So you grow into that, and then when you start to be old enough to see your mum struggling at times, you kind of start to understand that, and then you kind of probably grow an appreciation of what's going on, and with that comes admiration, and because of the battles that you see. So that's from a health point of view. Obviously, my mum paid the ultimate price eventually at the young age of 37.
So
but
young,
as a person, like super positive, a right good laugh.
Surprisingly so.
Well, very surprisingly so. I never get hit with the paddle brush. I think when you're looking, when you've got such challenges on a day-to-day basis, having that level of positivity and very much selflessness, because all that she ever wanted was me and my brother to do well, and always doing everything for us, always wanting the best for us. And my dad as well, obviously. So she was really, really selfless. But
she was funny.
She was very funny. Bizarrely, given that I'm no stranger to a few beers, my mum didn't drink.
Did she not?
No, she liked her fag.
I'm building a picture of Glasgow Mall.
Aye, that was
Glasgow
she
Mall?
says I'm a loud device. And I'm like, I hate smoking. It's absolutely rotten.
Oh no.
Which now I've got the knowledge it doesn't help her Crohn's disease either. So, but
it's
anyway,
one of the first things I got asked actually.
Did you?
Did I smoke or not? Because apparently that does contribute to it. So there you go, facts fans. On that though, like, is there anything that you remember, like, in terms of advice she would give you, or like, you know what we would call like mummisms? Anything that she would say to you that you're now in your head you still hear it?
I mean, we were brought up in a scheme. We were brought up in Pollock, and you know that it was a brilliant place to grow up. Truth be told, obviously had its challenges and stuff like that, but I honestly had a great childhood. I really believe that. Family were great, and we were pretty tight knit. Just a typical boy growing up, you know, you're out playing football, you're doing all the other things, and you've got a supportive family. I was okay in school, and that was something that she was pretty proud of. I know that's another surprise, but you know, she was.
You're
she
not
was
adapted, Derek. Let's be fair.
Some may argue. She was always like, really supportive, as was my dad as well, obviously. But yeah, she was always but she was really big on, if you had people in the house, she would just cook for it. Didn't matter how many people were there. Didn't matter how many people were there. You could have
feel like a big pot.
You could have 10 pals, and there would be a fry up on it in 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
And
see, that's incredible. I think that's such a mum thing. Like my mum, it's like the food never runs out. I've always had, like, I have people around and I'm like, oh, I've got toast. Like, that's it. I've never had like just gallons and gallons of food. But see, when you think about it as well, like, going into this for a minute, like, when somebody's really supportive of you and they always have your back and they're just like, you do, like, we just want you to be happy, want you to do well, like you're describing your mum, right? Do you not think that gives you an amazing grounding for success as a person?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, they're always super supportive, and you know, we never had much as a family. My dad was out grafting away. He was a painter and decorator for many years. Then he was a taxi driver. My mum couldn't work because of her health.
Yeah.
She did a bit of part time for my papa, as you know, she did his invoices and stuff like that. So there wasn't much there. But we always got the best. She always found a way of, you know, getting you those trainers, and, you know, always remember the holidays with the school that they put away for, so that me and my brother could go in them and stuff like that.
That's so nice, isn't it?
Aye,
Like,
and I think you don't appreciate it at the time because you just want to go away with your pals.
Exactly.
And I think that's just a general thing for childhood. You don't really appreciate it. It's only probably now that you appreciate maybe the sacrifices that they had to make to be able to deck you out in your new Jordans.
It's like the story of my dad. We always slag my dad because he's always like, I mean, there was 11 of us and we had to share shoes and all that, and we're like, oh aye, one sandal, pair each, and all that. And he looks at us like, why are you laughing at that? It's like, that's true. It's like, shut up. But it is true. And I think that's the thing, like, we don't have the same life experience because we probably come from, I don't mean we as in you and I mean like we as children of parents who've gone through hardship. They've had to do all that work, their generation, to get to a place where you could start on a better footing.
Yeah.
And that is pretty amazing. Is there any like funny stories about her that you remember that you just think, oh my God, like, that you're willing to tell?
No. No, do you know my memories of my mum, obviously you've got the serious bit when you're in at the hospitals and all that kind of stuff. Anything, I can honestly say that anything she ever done was based around us. Yeah. You know,
so she really was a mum.
Oh, like, properly. Like, she was always where we stayed, and that's how she was always up at the shops, get stocking up. What you know, I don't know how often it was. It felt like once a month. Once a month you get dragged for a posh shop to Marks and Spencer's. I think she was maybe shoplifting because she'd come away with loads of bags. But aye, she was always. We were definitely, between the three years, my dad and my brother and me, we were just the centre of everything for her, which is incredible because it should have been the other way about.
You never think about that when you're young, though. Tell me, right, so moving on to, we talked about your mum, the kind of person she was, and I mean, give you another compliment at the start of this, right, is you, when you talk to people, and I think that's part of why the charity is so successful, you radiate love, like you genuinely give good vibes to people. And it sounds like your mum was like that, just trying to make that like comparison, but it sounds like that's where that came from.
1,000,000%, I would say so. I think, yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you.
I mean, you're not getting any more of this.
No. Shot your load too early. She just radiated that. She was a really positive person, and she made people feel special. You know that.
And you do that. You do that. Let's get away from the nice stuff though. But yeah. Genuinely, right? So we're talking about your mum. We're talking about how wonderful she was and what your life was like when you were younger. But obviously, as anyone who has a family member that has Crohn's or colitis or any IBD, it can be really, really difficult and challenging as well, right? And you were only 16 when your mum died, is that right?
Yeah.
And actually, like, that's quite a formative years or whatever, yeah. Right? So, like, what does that feel like when you're that young and you have a parent who has a serious illness like that? What advice would you give people? What would you kind of share about that journey?
Okay. I think that's a great question. But the first... well, it's got to be one. A broken clock. The first thing, looking back on that part of the journey, you thought that was normal. We all thought it was normal. Ah,
okay. Because you didn't know anything else?
I didn't know anything else. I never knew anything else. Nobody knew it. They just knew that this was part of life, was my mum getting in and out of hospital, spending time in doctor's surgeries. You know, I can still remember the posters and the surgeries and all that kind of stuff. I can still remember that Gart Neville did a mean roll and cheese.
Yeah, yeah.
Still love her old cheese.
It's funny though, isn't it? It's like those. Do you smells? Do you kind of remember smells and things like that as well? Yeah,
totally. And they spark off nostalgia for positive and negative reasons. But that is your normal. And I think one of the things through these conversations is that the bar for normal moves.
Yes, depending on the person.
Yeah, depending on the person and depending on the experience. Our experience. What somebody looking at that would go, I don't know how they do that as a fan. Yeah. But we just got on with it.
Humans adapt, don't they? That's the thing. Whatever your circumstances, you adapt. But do you think you realise now? Well, you do because you're on charity. But do you think that? I guess, like, what point did you realise how much that was different to other people's experiences?
Oh, not for years later.
Really?
No way.
It was just like part of your life, and you just kind of got through it. Have you got any tips and tricks? But like. Anything that you would say to somebody who's struggling with a parent that is going through something like that, just like anything that you think you did or didn't do at the time that you would say would be a good idea?
Well, obviously I was perfect. That's not a joke, absolute joke. I think it's just been there as much as possible. I think when you look back, I think, you know, I was born in 75, so I think when you start to become aware of what's going on and aware of the situation that my mum was in, you know, you're not hitting that to the age. I mean, people still don't know what Crohn's or colitis is.
I mean, I've got it. I still don't know what the fuck it is.
Not listening. But so then, absolutely nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And try to understand it and be educated and all that kind of stuff. You know, as a family, we never had any of that.
Yeah.
You know,
look at what people have now, right? Like,
yeah, and it's still all right in many respects, and that's the truth. That's coming from, you know, running an organisation that's trying to educate, trying to get it out there. You know, it's challenging because it's you know, pharmacy biology is so complex,
and it's different for every person as well, right? So it's kind of like, I suppose for your mum as well, that generation, there must have been like the embarrassment that comes for some people must have been part of that journey as well because of the age she was or the generation that she grew up in.
Yeah, I mean,
did you kind of not remember that?
No, looking back. I would say that I knew that my mum was unwell regularly, a lot. But we never really knew what it was. I don't think, it wasn't until later on you knew it was Crohn's and you had a label for it. But growing up as a young, you don't really realise. And because it's your normal, you're kind of very much shielded from it, I think, as well. And it's not something that was openly talked about. I mean, when we did have the conversation, I remember the moment we had, the reason for the conversation, because I found nappies in the cupboard. And I thought I was going to have a wee brother or sister.
Oh, Derek!
Seriously, I
so you're disappointed?
I thought they were planning. No, I didn't want one of them.
You're the youngest by any chance?
Of course. I was, I thought my mum and dad were planning ahead. But what I didn't realise was that my mum had to wear them sometimes. Because to prevent accidents.
Do you know that's such an interesting thing to talk about as well? As just like, those are the things that are a reality for so many people. But people just, it's like we talked about when I was on as well, like, there's so many things that people with IBD go through that they just accept. And I suppose that's kind of like what you're talking about is like just a part of your life. It's just what happens, isn't it? It's like, as much as you don't like it, you don't really have loads of time to reflect on it.
Well, you talked about adapting. And adapting, or some people would look at it as survival mode and what you need to do. So would they, I can't speak for her clearly, but what did she need to do to make that half a mile walk up to the shop to get the shopping for us coming in for school?
There's
a lot of anxiety in it, and I never seen that anxiety ever.
Which is amazing, isn't it?
I can see it now that I've got more knowledge, because my mum would one of my mum's stress, when my mum was stressed, that was a trigger for a flare. So she had to have a solution to get to the shops, and that solution was those
nappies,
adult nappies. Which so then when I said, listen, I found these, what's happening, kind of thing, then you had to be sat down and say, well, look, your mum's not well, and this is what it is, and explaining as much as they possibly could with the information that they had.
Which is incredible, isn't it? Like, that you, at whatever age you are, like sort of early teens probably, like,
do you know what
younger?
Younger than that, definitely younger than that. And I think, that was a real trigger in kind of understanding a little bit about Crohn's. I think a massive point that was a shocking experience was that, now I don't know if it's, I've spoke to people since about the relationship between it, but my mum was became epileptic as well. And she would have very, very violent seizures. And the first time that ever happened, and I was witness to it, and I was myself in the house.
Isn't it?
It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But I began to recognise them. I mean, I was the person who was most at home. My brother's 5 years older than me, so he was kind of getting out and being doing teenage things when I was doing wee guy things. And as we got older, my dad was out to work often, so I would be in the house most. But I would have a sense of when they were going to happen, and I would be able to prepare for it.
And so you would have like your plan. I mean, is that something that you'd be happy to share? Like, because I know I've got a friend who has epilepsy, and the thing is always just like, don't try and get yourself involved. Just make the area around that person soft.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think a lot of people, when I've seen it in other situations, people's go-to is to hold them.
I know.
What are you doing?
I know.
But I can understand why that
it's
is.
It's like a calming gesture, isn't it? Or
but it's a case of, right, well, let's get the cushions.
And then just let it happen, and then deal with it aftermath.
Let it happen, see what it is. And there was, I don't know how many times I had to pull her tongue out, pull her tongue out, or else she'd obviously choked on it. But I mean, that was right. God, we're in a serious game here.
Yeah,
this is.
That must have been a real like
a real trigger. Even though that directly it had nothing to do with the Crohn's, but you just knew, my mum as an individual was seriously ill,
unwell,
and this was part of that, and that I think that compounded the seriousness of it for me.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, I'm never aware that it happened in public. She never had I don't think she ever had a seizure in public. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
I've just seen what you've done with your leg, and I'm going to do that.
Jealous?
It looks
Did you like that?
so comfy.
Well, it's not bad.
Much more comfy. Is that all right? Have we ruined everything now? No.
I'll keep it right. So it was our normal was far from normal, and it was only years later I realised that. But you get when somebody's in and out of hospital. My mum was in multiple operations to trim bits of her cut away, and she would go into she went to hospital to get fed, basically, because she'd real nutritional issues and she didn't eat much, and when she did eat, obviously it didn't last long, and that was a real problem. She was under 6 stone often, and you know, it was quite a horrendous watch. But you know, when somebody's always in and out of hospital, they go in, but they're always coming back. Yeah. Till they don't. Sadly, one day she didn't.
I mean, let's talk about that if you're comfortable too.
Totally.
Like grief is see that the way you're holding your foot. Obviously, to lose your mum at 16, like there's very few people that could imagine what that feels like or how that would impact your life going forward, right? But grief is such a huge thing, like in life. Everybody has a different viewpoint of it. Everybody responds differently to it. And I mean, I'm Indian, and the way that we grieve is almost, it's like a celebration, which I really like. Yeah. And I remember the first time I went to a Scottish funeral, I remember being like, oh, this is all very sombre. Like, there's really a mark of the end. Whereas being Indian, it's almost a mark of, because we believe in reincarnation, or if I was Hindu and practicing, I would, you believe that something comes next. I know that's quite a lot to talk about, but what do you think about grief? Like, what is grief to you? What did you feel like when that happened? Can you remember?
Oh yeah, I remember loads about it. So we knew it was serious.
Right. So there was a kind of build up.
Yeah, because my mum's bowel had perforated.
Right.
You know, it'd been stretched so much, and you know, at the time, you know, I always remember saying, I'm not getting a bag and that's that, because that meant that was like major taboo. And
that's mad as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at the time,
you know, but at the time, and I know it's still a real challenge for a lot of people, but I think, you know, through the great work and empowerment, you know, organisations like Get Your Belly Out and stuff like that, they've made they're normalising that, and it's fantastic because it's really empowering the community. Brilliant. But then it was a different story. So, you know,
so much shame around bodies at that point, wouldn't there be? Whereas,
totally. I
mean, we still have it, but it's not quite as present.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So, you know, obviously, when you're that size, you're not combating that. No. You know, and you know, she battled for a few days, and then I remember it was really spooky actually. Because I was in the house myself, and I was on the phone to a friend, and we used to have when you had landlines.
I'm just miming, ringing the numbers. You would literally you put your finger in the dial and it would go all the way round.
Yeah, but we were posh. We buttons.
What did you have buttons?
We buttons by this point. Check. Probably off a shoplifter, but
here's a very quick, you know, I've got ADHD, so I always interrupt you, right? But see, when you had those phones, do you remember your parents, like when you would be on the phone to your pal, picking up the other line and just being like, get off the phone now? Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
Isn't that mental that you can't really do that now?
Almost disappointing.
But anyway, you're on the phone. Such a weird thing.
To be fair, we had the phone down the stair, but at this point we'd moved and we'd up downstairs in the garden and everything. Well, check us.
Up in the world.
Aye. None of us knew how to do anything in the garden. It was more like a jungle, but that's a different story.
Indian people in gardening, let me tell you about that.
So we had the phone down the stair and the phone up, and so I was on the phone to a pal. I was like, do you know what's really, really weird? I'd never told this story before in public anyway. Yes. I thought I could hear the banging. Like my mum was having a seizure in the kitchen.
But she wasn't in the house?
She wasn't in the house.
Well, Derek, that's weird.
I know.
That's just gave me a
on my heart, it's true.
That's mad, isn't it?
And I actually said it, and I went, "This is really weird," and I didn't think much of it at all. And my dad was out at work. Gary was at his girlfriend's at the time, or whatever. And I went to bed, and my dad came in, and he says, "Look, your mum's passed away." And I'm like, "Right, let's go and get Gary." I just went into, I don't know, almost like an autopilot.
Like coping.
Yeah, my coping mechanism was to make sure that other people were okay.
And that's still a part of your personality.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. But I recognise it.
Others first.
But I recognise it now. Yeah. Whereas I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have before. And we had to go and get my brother out of Vicky's. Not the hospital, the nightclub. So we had
Did you haul him out?
No, so me and my dad had to wander down Sucky Hall Street, and we the famous steward on the door was a guy called Peter Watson, who's on the door of Vicky's for years. And we said to Peter, told him the situation. He knew me because my brother had been sneaking me into Vicky's for a number of years at that point as well. And
I missed those days.
And the big Victoria's had the big long staircase, and just he went up and he came down, and you just seen the steps, and it was like, and it was like kind of Three Musketeers that way at the hospital. So I forget your question now.
So I guess really,
so grief.
What is grief like for you? What is grief like at that point? What is grief like for you?
You don't. But the almost, to say another thing that I think is quite spooky, is that my wee granny Rose, who's my mum's mum, and they were best pals. You would see them everywhere together. She died pretty much exactly a year before.
Oh, really?
Exactly a year before. And I never knew this at the time, but my dad shared this with me after. My mum was on breathing apparatus and all that, so she couldn't talk, but she knew what was going on, and she wrote a note to my dad saying, "I know I don't have long left, and I'll see my mum." So she knew that it was.
Oh, that's amazing.
She knew that it was a year, and she knew she'd, I don't know, accepted where she was, I suppose.
There's something, just to stop you, something very nice, comforting, whatever your word is for it, when someone is at that point or that stage of their life, when they accept that that's what's happening, because that's really peaceful, right?
Yeah, I know, you're comforted.
It's like there's something, when you accept something, you're at peace with it, and therefore you kind of, I don't know that you embrace it, but you move into it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, even when you was talking about that there, I mean, the spooky thing, right? So, I like a wee bit of spooky chat, right? But I do believe that there are things, it's energy. So I believe in energy. I don't necessarily believe that, like, a ghost to just pop up behind the screen, right? But I think that energy moves, and that's scientifically proven, right? So it's like, when you heard your mum, there's no one can tell you that wasn't your mum telling you something. Do you know what I mean? No one can prove that that's not correct, is what I would say.
No, and do you know, it's a very vivid memory, because it was so like it, and I was the only person in the house, and if the TV was on down the stair, I couldn't hear it anyway, and it was just so like, because I'd heard it so many times. I knew what it was like. So it was really, really weird.
It's so strange, isn't it?
Well, definitely. But so to go back to grief, I had sampled it. Not a nice sample.
Yeah.
With one of the most important people in my life.
Yeah.
And then I had watched the reaction, not only of myself, but my mum. My mum was heartbroken. My papa was left himself.
You talked about your gran, obviously.
Yeah, and so I'd seen that, and how everybody kind of crumbled in that, and then, as I say, almost pretty much to the date, a year later, you're here with the linchpin in the family, with the person that held everything together. You know, even though, you know, that my mum was clearly the unhealthiest in the family. like she was the main person.
Yeah,
You know, her
she's like the
sisters looked up
nucleus
to.
sort of
Yeah,
thing.
totally. And you don't know what grief is. You know, you don't. And if I was to look at it now, and I'll not lie, I do think about it from time to time. It's a journey. It's a never-ending journey, and it's got lots of peaks and troughs.
Never goes away, does it?
No, never. No, see that? Are you over that? Because that used to be a thing. People would actually say that to people.
It's like, are you over losing your mum? I just did that 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, you'd been
That's me, done and dusted. Got the t-shirt.
So it's definitely a journey, but I think it's. I mean, it sounds like old kind of wanky coaching chat.
Excuse me,
but but it's like the acceptance of it. But it is. But but it took me a long time to have that acceptance, and. But once you get that, and I think you start to understand the peaks and troughs, so that you can manage your own grief, because you can't manage anybody else's.
Isn't it? No,
we've all of a sudden got three guys. My dad's not even 40. He's left with two idiot boys. And getting through a certain part of their lives. Gary's 21, I'm 16, and he's trying to do his best, and testosterone flying. Not one person having a clue how to deal with it.
Let's not beat around the bush as well. West of Scotland boys as well, which is a whole, let's come back to that. But I wondered, have you ever heard the tennis ball analogy about grief?
No.
Have you heard this? So my best friend lost her wee baby at 9 months, and
oh my God.
It's pretty horrific, right? They're amazing people, and seeing the people that you love the most, it's almost like grief by proxy. Like
totally.
And there's nothing you can do, right?
Totally.
But I remember she told me this, and it's always stuck with me, is that grief is always a tennis ball. So if you think about grief like a tennis ball, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't get bigger, it always stays the same. All that happens is it starts off in a glass, so the space around it is really minimal, and as time goes on, it goes into a vase, it goes into a room, and all that happens is the space around it becomes bigger. So your grief is always the same, but everything around it changes. See
when you started telling it, I thought about it a really different way.
What did you think?
Because I quite liked your tennis ball thing. So the tennis in my head.
Here we go. No one needs to know what's in there.
No. You might like this.
Right.
So your tennis ball analogy, right? So your grief doesn't shrink, but your tennis ball's in the rally. So sometimes it goes away, and sometimes it comes back to you.
That.
Ah.
So the space around it grows, but it's also constantly. Do you know what that's like? I can't believe it. Again, my brain just spits stuff out. My financial advisor told me that's what pensions are like going up the stairs with a yo-yo. Yeah. That's kind of like grief, right? So it's like it's constantly changing, it's constantly moving, but the thing itself doesn't really change. No, it remains. It's part of you, right? Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's a journey, and it's not an easy journey. And I think something you touched on about going through the kind of how your culture, your family's culture celebrate. I think that it took me a long time to get to celebrate my mum's life and celebrate what she stood for and all that kind of stuff. And again, that probably comes with that acceptance. But I absolutely celebrate that. I don't get me wrong, I wish I had so much more time. See, when I see my pals taking them off for lunch and all that, I get a wee bit jealous of that. Oh, no wonder though, Derek. But so there's so many things in your life, but it is, it's a massive dark cloud that I really, really struggled with for many, many years, like best part of a decade, because I never started the foundation for like 10 years after my mum died. What was that bit in the middle like? The wilderness years. Because I suppose like grief happens, you lose someone you love, then you have to piece your life back together, but there's no manual. There's no like someone comes along and just goes, well, maybe now, to be fair, here's what happens next. So you go through those 7 stages of grief, which I can never remember what they're called, right? And then you have to navigate it. It's like you're just cut off. And then your dad and your brother, 3 West of Scotland men, to whom I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, emotion is not the language, right? you have to then navigate that separately and together. What does that look like?
See, I don't necessarily agree with emotion is not the language.
Right. Is it a different kind of emotion?
Opening up your emotions and what you actually feel is, I think, different.
So the sharing of emotion is not the language?
No.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, there's loads of emotion. And loads of it's anger.
Yeah.
Loads of it's anger.
And that's normal.
Yeah, and you're I think naturally you look for somebody to blame.
Yeah.
And you know, you're pointing it's at the hospital and it's this and it's that and then you're picking holes in each other and you're putting holes in the walls and I mean it's like you're in it, but you know,
it's got to come out, doesn't
everybody's doing their best and you know, I always think of I think of my dad and think, you know, he's not even 40 and I'm putting and I'm going,
well, that's how old are you
now? I'll be 50 this year, darling.
I'm 45. But when you think about that, like, you're 10 years older than your dad was when he lost your mum. That's mental.
And he's got 2 kids to support that are far from kids now, and he's trying to do his best, you know. And it's
but you can only reflect on that after the fact, can't you?
1,000,000%. A 1,000,000%. It took me years to kind of try to understand where he's. And listen, I've got challenges with how he went about things, and but I've still got challenges with how I went about things. My brother and how, you know, I wouldn't say you could have dealt with it better, but could you have? Because you don't know how to deal with it.
Well, I was just going to say that people always say that, don't they? You could have dealt with it better, but it's like, well, how do you know? If someone says that, how do you know somebody could have dealt with something better? But also, you don't know the person.
No.
So you don't know any of the things or the factors that impacted them.
No.
And then you add grief to it. Like, that's just, for so many people, that's just a big mushroom cloud. Do you know what I mean? It's just a big mushroom cloud of grief.
It's a really, really challenging time, and you're you know, you're in your formative years. I was just about to sit my hires. Gary was working, he had a girlfriend, so he wasn't in the house that much. I was, if I'm honest, I'm not playing to get the fiddles, but I was alone a lot. You know, my pals. But you know, I've got a brilliant group of pals. They don't know how to deal with me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The school doesn't know how to deal with it because it's, you know, thankfully
and people
it's quite
don't
unique.
ask, do they, or did they? Because I have friends whose parents died when they were quite young, and the thing they always said is that we're still friends. We're probably knitted together by grief. We've been friends since we were like 8 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But because I always asked. But I think that's quite a female thing. Like, women ask lots of questions. Men often don't.
One for a pint.
And then it's never but it's like, I would maybe say to one of my mates, oh, how's such and such getting on? Like, you must have had a hard time or whatever. I imagine this might be your pals. And the partner would go, oh, well, what's happening with him? Is he all right or whatever? And the guy would go, and I've heard my brother-in-law do this, aye, we didn't talk about that. It's like, what were you doing?
But I think now is different.
Do you?
To a certain extent. To a certain extent, it's far from the way that it probably should be, or people, you know, everybody's different, I suppose.
It's just the way we're built, isn't it? Like,
yeah, and get back west of Scotland, men, get your chin up. We all know how much the men close things off and they don't talk, and we need to do more. We need to do more with inflammatory bowel disease. We need to do more in general. I mean, you just need to look at the suicide rates.
Oh, I mean, it's like, sometimes I think that almost like the filter that's placed on men as well of, you can't talk about this, or you shouldn't talk about it, or you're not man enough because you don't talk about it. That's very easy for me as a woman to say, because that's never been my experience.
Yeah.
But I know for a lot of my friends, like, the challenge is actually bringing the thing up in the first place.
Yeah, and that's half the battle. In fact, it's probably more than half the battle. But the great thing now, just to kind of look at that a little bit, is that there's loads of platforms in the modern
and
day.
There's support.
It is out there. It's just getting that point to get to that. But that worked for me. Yeah,
I mean, we'll come back to it, right? But support, mental health support, is something that the foundation provides.
Absolutely.
Right, and that, I think, is again coming back to how you deal with grief. Because listen, people are navigating things that they never thought they would. Probably have never actually figured that once it happens, they don't have a plan.
No.
So that's kind of, I suppose, why charities like the Catherine McEwan Foundation exist, because people need that support. and they need it to understand something that maybe other people don't. You do.
Yeah. You don't have all the answers, but you hope to have that. You hope to provide a platform for support where people can navigate the waters and hopefully find some answers and how they can manage with this lifelong condition. Yeah, you know, that's the bottom line, and I think that's where we want to be, and where we, you know, it's like we don't want our community to be defined by inflammatory bowel disease, because they're not defined by it.
No, they're not the disease.
They're not the disease, and we want to be, but still need support in some way, shape or form at times. I mean, hopefully we never see them, but you know, the reality is we do. But we want to support them to be to fulfil their potential as a human being, because they can. That's
like the Nike mission statement, you know that? Moving forward, right, here's Derek at 16 is a very different guy to Derek at 26. Now, to a lot of people would ask you the question of the inspiration behind starting the charity, and I do want to know that, right? But I also want to know, what did those first few years of you deciding to make the charity a thing, and then, because I know you running about trying to make the things happen, what did that look like? Was that just mental, Derek?
Well, I think
maybe funny's a bit. Now he's got the van.
I know.
Didn't have the van.
I didn't have the van. I didn't have the happy van. Everybody loves a happy van.
I love it. I know I'm in the right place when I see the van.
So, what did it look like? So, first and foremost, when I say the wilderness years, I mean the wilderness years, because I was bouncing about, going everywhere, getting lost in the weekend. I travelled the world for a bit, you know, essentially just
trying to get lost, running away.
Yeah, running away, because I didn't know how to deal with it. But what I never realised, I didn't know that I was running away. Then
you never do in the moment, do you?
No, I didn't know that I wasn't dealing with it. I didn't know that I was depressed. I didn't know I had massive grief.
It's only when you reflect, darling, that you see that.
Well, I used to work for a guy called Justin Smith. He probably doesn't know this, but he changed my life for the better. And he used to have a company called Youth Media, and he used to sell kind of advertising space, and you know that. He's a great lad, English boy, and he gave. He handed, I always have to remember it vividly, he handed me an envelope, right, and I'm looking at it and going, it's one of two things, that.
Oh God.
It's either a bonus
or goodbye,
because I wasn't too bad at my job,
right,
or it's my P45.
So it was that vast what it could have been.
Well, I invented the 4-day week. Sometimes the 3-day week. I like to think I was ahead of my time. So but it was neither. It was it gave me my first appointment to go and see a therapist.
Wow, what a man.
I said, I think that will help you. And initially
that's incredible, Derek. Can we just take a minute to shout him out, by the way? Because that is such a beautiful thing. I've not seen him
for years, and he probably doesn't know that story, but it's true.
Beautiful thing to do for another human being, particularly when you don't know how it might be received.
Well,
how was it received?
How do you think it was received?
Well, wait the fuck! I'm not.
It was a wee bit. Do you know what? It was a very quick turnaround. I went, fuck that! I'm not mad. And then I went, and I went and I started a therapy journey, which was a lot about. You know, it was a lot of talk therapy. It was looking back, I never knew what I was doing. I never knew what I was getting into. It was a lot of grief counselling. It was kind of understanding what my behaviours and what I was doing. And I probably went in that on and off for a couple of years. But during that time, I was moving house. I had a flat in Paisley, and I was moving to Rutherglen. And for my sins, a lot of people know this, I'm a Rangers fan.
Not really.
And I had this piece of football memorabilia that was basically was very proud of it.
Have you still got it?
No. But no, I'm going to tell you what happened to it. So basically, in the ticket office, you can get these 10 a penny now. But in the ticket, I think in the ticket office at Ibrox, there used to be a massive. It was like 10-foot long picture of Ibrox against Rangers versus Celtic. And every time I went in, I go, that's amazing.
I want that.
I love that. And,
like the New York skyline, but no quite.
Better, right? But then it turns out through work, I met the guy who printed it.
Oh wow! Right, okay.
Shy guy that I am.
Can I get that?
Pretty much. So he gave me two, and I gave one to my uncle. I think he's still got it in his loft. It's up in his loft, and I thought it was really classy, and I split it into three, and I had it on the wall.
A triptych, you'd call that, by the way.
Is that what you call it?
That's what it's called. There you go.
Every day's a school day, and it was magnificent. But I knew that I couldn't move with it.
Yeah.
And it was going to get wasted, and Cash for Kids at the time would be on at Christmas, and they were doing auctions all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'm going through my therapy bit, and I'm hearing this, and I'm going, and the Cash for Kids, and they're selling football tops and all that kind of stuff. And I looked up at it and I went, I'm going to put that to good use. So this was about December. That's
mad.
And I think 2002.
How old are you at this point? 20?
2002, 26.
Okay. Yeah.
Aye, 26. And I looked at it, I'm going to auction, I'm going to donate that, phone in the radio. And then I quickly changed my mind as my way. And I went, no. I'm going to put something on and raise money for Crohn's disease.
And that literally just came from...
Radio Clyde.
That's mental.
That's what happened.
Isn't it?
That's what happened. And I said I was putting on this event, and I'm sure it was, it shows you how long ago it was the Moat House.
Right, okay.
Now the Crown Plaza.
Yeah.
And I think about 180 people or something like that went along. We gave the money to Crohn's Collection, I don't know, 15 grand or something like that.
That's incredible.
Gave it to that. And Sati Singh, of Mr. Singh's fame, and many other things, bought the picture.
Did he?
Yeah. And he still
Do you know,
has
that's so funny? That's like a funny connection, because my uncle, who died when he was 47, a lot of my family died of heart disease quite young, right? So I've had a lot of grief in my life. And he was really good pals with Sati Singh. There you go.
Sati has been there. You know, I knew him for a number of years. Probably 10 years before. He's got an absolute heart of gold, and he always supports it.
And has he still got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in his house.
That's so funny, isn't it?
It's in his house.
Like,
I'm hoping one day he gives me it back.
Well, I was going to say, now, if you've got a different house now, you can put it up in. What about your uncle? Get that out of his loft. What's that doing in his loft?
I know, but I don't want to pay for the framing.
If anyone would like to frame something for Derek for free.
You talk nice to Uncle Donny. So that started. And I just remember, I can't remember who it was. Nobody believed I was going to do it. They were like, Scatty, here's no chance. And
that's kind of amazing, though.
No, it was amazing it happened. It was... I just had... I'm doing this, and it's going to do well, and I just did that thing. I had no clue what I was doing, but I pulled together all these auction items. People believed in the story, you know. People seen what I'd been like for years, and how challenged I was with my mum passing away and stuff like that. So they really believed in the story. You know, it's a hard one not to get behind, truth be told, for anybody. I mean, I've done it for loads of people since, and all that kind of thing. But somebody said to me, why are you doing this? You don't need to do it. And I went,
I want to
do it, but I want to help people that have gone through what my mum went through, because it was a horrendous journey. And the answer's 20 odd years later is the same. That's why I do it.
I wonder as well, Derek, like, again, this is life coach me, not me slagging you off me, right? But
it is.
I wonder if part of the charity and what it gives you is a question I've got for you later on, but don't give me the same answer. Is it does the charity almost help you heal by helping other people?
100%. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it never. But But I didn't think about that to begin with.
No, you don't start a charity so that you can get something, do you? You never do that.
Well, at that point, it wasn't a charity. At that point, it was a
you flinging some stuff in it.
It's a fundraising event. You know, shy guy that I am, I was, was very, very lucky that people got together and believed in it, and it did well. And we sent a cheque to Crohn's and Colitis UK, who we got on really well with. Richard Driscoll, who was the chief executive at the time, sadly no longer with us, a lovely man, and a lovely lady called Mary Daly at the time. And if I'm honest, it was meant to be, I don't know if I was just ticking a box and that was one thing, but then a few people came back to me and said, when's your next one? And I went, oh, wait,
this is a thing.
Did you enjoy it? Brilliant night, brilliant. And then did another one, and then somebody asked me to do a parachute jump, and I went, all right, okay. And then it kind of
I love that when you went from an auction to a parachute jump.
It kind of snowballed, and then
were you just open to it? Were you just like, do you know what? I'm not going to think too much about this. I'm just going to see where it goes.
I'd probably never thought about it that much. I just kind of did that, and if you're talking about, is that a therapy for you? It felt good that you were doing something that would give something back, because I felt robbed. I still feel robbed, if I'm
absolutely
being honest.
And that's
I felt
so fair.
I felt robbed by inflammatory bowel disease, by Crohn's disease, of my mum. And if I could help, and it sounds like an old cliche, but it's true, if I could help one other person, then that would be beneficial. That would be would be great for them, but I would feel as if I was doing something with, because I was channeling my anger in the wrong way. Yeah,
and then you channeled it in a different way. So I channeled it
in a positive way, and that was therapy that helped me do that.
Actually, like when you think about that as well, like I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy Simon Sinek. I'll probably get this wrong, right? But he's a guy that talks about, like, basically the greatest thing that you can do is acts of service, right? Which is basically what your life is now, right? And the reason for that is because as a human being, you're given so much, but you're also getting something back from that, because and it's like not a quid pro quo, but it's like it's a cyclical thing. So you give something to someone, and the joy that they get from that, or the help that they get from that, helps you in your journey to not feel robbed anymore, maybe, and maybe it helps you feel like you're stopping that happening, or at least easing that pain for somebody else.
I'm sure that is definitely the case.
Did you see what I did there? Did you like that?
Yeah, I see what you did there. But I mean, I'm sure somebody could go do a deep dive right into it.
But I mean, it's a nice thing, isn't it? It's like as humans, we're driven by genuinely good stuff. It's just that we've got to get to it first. Yeah,
for sure. So that's how it started, and then
how it started, how it ended.
It's kind of snowballed.
I mean, tell me that, right? Obviously, you and I could talk about the charity forever, and that, like, we should just do a series. By the way, but
the world doesn't need me in the screens constantly.
I would argue that. But you then go into things like the Red Hot Ball, etc., start happening, and I want to hear about that. I want two things from you if you're open to it. I want the point where there was a holy shit, and that's me being polite, moment of, oh fuck, as I started this as an auction and now we're here, right? Another thing I want is the maddest moment you can remember, like the thing that you just are like, oh, what am I doing, or what has happened and how am I going to get out of it, right? So like a holy shit moment, like we look how far we've come.
I think there's probably a few. I think one of I think probably about year 3, I knew I was in it for the long haul. Right. I was saying, oh, this is good, but I wanted to, and I spoke to Richard Driscoll and I said, look, we're writing you a cheque for maybe the past 2 or 3 years, and they're reasonably sizable for then, you know.
You don't necessarily where it's going.
Yeah,
do you? Like,
yeah, but we know it's a good organisation with good people. But and I said, well, can we do something in Glasgow? Can we help? Can we help? Like in my naivety, hospitals that my mum had spent time and stuff like that. And he was instrumental in helping me that. And we kind of went round the houses and we met. We tried to help adult services and it never worked out because there was too much red tape in what they were trying to do. And we got introduced to York Hill. So we got introduced to now Professor Richard Russell, and Vicky Garrick.
Both amazing people.
Yeah, who's, I think...
And Vicky's now works for the charity, right? Which is
so I think Vicky was the first IBD specialist nurse in Scotland. So she developed the service.
She is an incredible woman.
She's amazing, and I can't believe I've said that in public. No, she is amazing. She knows I'm a fan. She loves that I'm a fan.
You two together on a TV show. Honestly, man, it's you should make it.
Oh dear, there's a sitcom in there somewhere. And we met these guys who, at the time, nobody's giving them any money.
Yeah.
Nobody's funding anything out with it they're getting through the NHS. And I was like, popped up saying, I'd like to give you some cash. And they were like, that's brilliant. So, their passion for what they were doing matched mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, well, these guys can be the conduit to show impact.
That's amazing.
Because these guys so we started to put our family days on, we started to be involved in research, so it was a brilliant partnership. We still supported Crohn's Colitis UK with certain things as well, and we could channel it into the inflammatory bowel disease within the hospitals in Glasgow predominantly, but we did loads and loads of stuff.
The clicking of that must have been a holy shit moment of like, these people are doing this, I can help, but they will get the benefit from the thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, and there's that, it's something that annually, so that first event, somebody sent me a picture of one of the first events recently, and it's like,
please do share on the socials.
I know, I will. I'll find it to kind of where it's at now, and it's quite a difference. Brilliant, but absolutely phenomenal. I forgot what I was talking about there.
Holy shit! Someone sent you a picture of.
I know somebody sent us a picture of that, but I don't even know where that was going.
Holy shit or daft.
Holy shit! So the whole So I think like when you go through that and you're putting the events on and you start, it's like, right, we're doing something, and that first event was what evolved into what everybody knows as Red Hot Ball.
Right. Okay.
So that is that. So what became a real tradition that still stands to this day was standing up and sharing what you'd done, not
a celebration of the year.
When I say what you've done, I don't mean me. I mean it's what everybody in the room have done, because everybody in that room and still ongoing trust the vision that the organisation's got and trusted me essentially.
And that's a lot of weight on your shoulders as well.
Yeah, but I never seen it like that, and I still don't see it like that. I see it as a real honour and a real privilege that they believe in me and believe in the foundation and how it's grown and believing. But what they've started to see, and it was incredible over the years, is that they start to see other stories. They start to see the impact. And when you stand up there every year and say, "This is what you guys have achieved this year,"
that's incredible.
People, and they wear it as a badge of honour, and I'm so proud of that. And people that have come on for that journey, and it's great.
Incredible. I mean, I came to my first one last year, and just so you can tell the listeners, for anyone that doesn't know what the Red Hot Ball is, I mean, my description of it would be that it's a fundraising evening, but it's like a vibrant, like firecracker. Like, honestly, at the core of it is celebration and awareness, right? Obviously fundraising, but it's I can swear, right?
Yeah,
it's a fucking banging night out. And I remember just being like, not only impressed by how much fun it was, but impressed by how slick it looks. I mean, I would love to have seen the first one, right?
I'm going to get the pictures. I'm going to get the pictures. It wasn't that.
But that is the thing. It's, as an event, it is, you get a table, right, or you buy a seat or whatever it is, and it's like any sort of fundraising event where, yes, you can donate money, but you don't have to.
No.
You can come along and enjoy the night. But also there's some really informative pieces, and one of the things I thought you did amazingly to the one I came to was there was performances by people who, like Karen, who I think you have on the podcast, like, who had gone through like a horrific journey with his IBD, but was up there playing with his mate and talking about the journey, and then being an incredible musician. And he wasn't, you know that way sometimes you go to these events and you go, oh, that's nice, he can play the guitar. It was like, that guy's talented. He's really talented.
Really talented.
And it was like, so it fitted the vibe of Callum Beattie coming on next, and it was like, it didn't feel like it was at odds with that. The whole night felt really curated. It felt like a really enjoyable night. I'm telling people about it now, even though I just asked you to tell everyone about it.
Well,
like,
thanks very much. You made it sound absolutely wonderful.
It is.
Yeah, thank you. No, do you know what? I'm super proud of it.
It's the best fundraising event I've ever been to, and I have been to a lot.
Well, that means a lot, because I know that you go to a lot, because you go to the opening of a packet of crisps. Yep.
Which I'm going to after this.
So no, it's very kind of you. Do you know what? As I say, it's an evolution that I'm really proud of where it is now. I'm really proud. At its core, it's a fundraiser, and it has to be that. But I've always had the opinion that, and people always looked at me strangely, and some of them still do, that if you entertain people, come back, and if you entertain people, and if you get the stories right, and you get the impact, and you make people feel part of that, the story and the journey, then you'll win. At the core of these events are about entertainment. And as I'm sure you've been to them as well, if people have got a smile on their face, they'll enjoy giving you the money for the cause.
Absolutely.
But if you feel as if they're picking their pocket, it's get an adverse reaction. It's really challenging to get them come again. Mm-hmm. So that's it. I think that's at the core of everything we do. Fun is at the core of everything that we do, whether it's a fundraiser or whether it's or whether it's the total culture of the organisation. Because at the heart of it, I think it's kind of. I think a lot of it reflects my mum's nature. It probably reflects mine to a certain extent as well. But when we're supporting, life's serious enough for these guys. And it shouldn't all be about your cow protecting and your bloods and all that kind of stuff. It's like come on out.
What we're doing.
I think
you talk about people. Yeah. You provide a service for people. It just so happens that they have IBD. That's kind of how I view what you do, and I think because of that, like, there's a term sometimes, that term ableist. It's like the world is made for a certain type of person, and sometimes you're really conscious of other people not being able to access the same services in the same way or whatever. But actually, what you've done is created a world that everyone feels like they want to exist in, that they can exist in, and that they're. It's almost like, that thing when people talk about having a disability, it's not the thing that comes first.
No.
You celebrate people for being people. You don't celebrate them for being people, even though they've got an inflammatory bowel disease. Yeah. And I think that that's really important. I think that's all that anyone wants,
Yeah. You're providing support, and you're providing a platform to help them when there's lots of challenges to get.
For shitey days.
Yeah,
just quite literally.
Definitely. So there's lots of those kind of eureka moments. I mean, I think where we're going and what the vision is for the future. It's really, really exciting. So there's lots of these moments. What was your other question?
The other one was like, can you remember a moment where you just thought, like, what am I doing? Like a daft moment.
Aye. I'm not sure that it's a what am I doing? I just watch people's reactions. And I loved it, and I still love it, and it's still controversial, but I still love it. So friends of mine had they still have it, but it's called something different. Friends of mine had a brilliant venue called Wild Cabaret in Glasgow.
Right. Oh yeah, I know it, yeah.
And it was absolutely fantastic. You would go and you just didn't know what to expect. You got a beautiful meal, and then you would have a cabaret show.
It was great.
So you didn't know. I mean, if you've been, you could go one week and all different types of performers. You would. And then the next week would be totally different. Some of them were right out there, and some of them were quite controversial, and some of them were.
There was some Glaswegian Dita Von Teese's when I went.
Aye. They were standard. So I took a little bit of inspiration on that one year for the ball, and we brought this guy. So it's a Canadian comedian called Chris Wilson, and he's got an act called Jesus L'Oreal. Right, and it's got a full show at the Fringe and all that for years. They've done it, but this act only lasted like 4 or 5 minutes at max. So basically, he comes out and he's got the white robe. And when I say Jesus is Jesus, then he's got the white robe with the red sash, and he comes out through the smoke and with the beard and the long hair and the cross and all that's right.
Amazing.
So it's like kind of announced like we've got a special guest. So he comes on being all Jesus-y.
Never is that a word.
He comes on being all Jesus-y, and you could just see people in the room going, "What the fuck's this?"
Jesus here?
And I'm kind of watching everybody. I'm looking for the reaction because I know what's coming.
Right. Okay.
So our Jesus bursts into Flashdance.
Oh, amazing!
Right, amazing. And he's dancing because he's a good dancer, and he's doing he's doing all the dancing and losing the robe.
Oh wow! Right, okay. The Jesus part of him has come off.
Yeah, but
He's still Jesus.
Jesus kept his modesty, thankfully.
Did he have like a loincloth?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! It's amazing.
Right, and I'm watching it, and to this day, there was 3 very, very distinct reactions. There was hilarity. People there was people open mouthed, not knowing what they were seeing, and there was people enraged.
Oh, really enraged by Jesus?
Fucking hell.
Is that because it was deemed to be like, if they were religious, like, man, that's brilliant.
But what I never knew, and one of my great wee pals and supporters since day one was a beautiful, a bit like John and Margaret Cowie. Hi, John, Margaret. And they're quite religious. Right. They had the minister at the table. They had their minister. None of them. So they're front and centre, right? They're at the front row, and none of them knew where to look. She says, "Derek, you'll get me excommunicated." So I personally would have Jesus back in a minute, because so many people haven't seen Jesus. Yeah. So I don't know if Chris Wilson's still doing it, but if you are,
so we invite. Are we
I know, but I've spoiled it now because people know what it is.
I don't know. I think I'd still enjoy that, even if I knew what it was. That would be incredible.
What a dancer, by the way.
Sometimes you just have to stick to a decision as well. Like, you just have to be like, right, we're doing this.
Well,
I'm sticking to my guns in it.
Julie, my long-suffering wife.
I was just going to say, let's just have a minute for Julie, will we?
Aye, definitely.
She deserves it.
Well, me and John Mancini's supported a lot of our stuff over the years, and me and John have got a kind of standing joke with Julie. If Julie doesn't think it's a good idea, it's a winner. It'll never work. Brilliant. I remember for the 20th anniversary, I'm a shy guy. For the 20th anniversary, at the time,
not your and Julie's 20th anniversary.
No. We're not quite there yet. So at the time, Julie and Ricky were doing Colours Classical and the Street Rave Classical.
To anyone who doesn't know Julie and Ricky, they're two of the best people you could meet. Honestly, maddest but greatest.
Absolutely. So they were doing like Colours Classical in the Hydro. So I phoned Ricky and I said, I'm looking for a favour. We want to do something special for the 20th anniversary of Red Hot Ball. I don't suppose you could donate the classical show.
How would you do that, Derek?
Oh, we done it.
How would you donate the show?
So a lot of work goes into the show and writing the score and the performance, blah 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 blah. And so there's a lot of investment goes into that. So I just wanted to just take it and kind of plonk it into the DoubleTree.
I mean, one thing I will always say about you is you are always ambitious.
Well,
and I love that.
See what?
Like, I love that.
And then me, Julie, that will never work. That rave music, and I was like, but it's the classics, rave music. And to mention me Mags Cowie again, you can't imagine me Mags Cowie up there dancing to that, can you?
Which dance to Jesus?
Me and John absolutely howling. And needless to say, at that point, it became the most successful Red Hot Ball to
That
date.
is incredible, isn't it? I wish I'd been at that. That's amazing.
I'm really proud of what that event's become, but there's so many people involved, Julie especially, being so involved in it.
I think for you to have somebody, just again, we're not making it about Julie, but we are for a minute, to have somebody who's so supportive of your vision and what you're doing with the charity, and always kind of actually, because whenever I speak to Julie, she does also seem really enthused and really kind of supportive of it, and not just because it's your thing. It feels very much like she cares so much about it because of you, with you, whatever that is, but also because she just genuinely thinks that you do a really bloody good job. The charity does a very
good job, thank you. Do you know what? Since day one, she's really believed in it, like so many other people, but obviously she's got to live with it day to day. God love her.
She must be like, I don't even have IBD and you're stuck in this down my throat.
I know. But no, she absolutely believes in it, and she's super supportive. I mean, at the end of the day, when I had to make the decision, I didn't have to. I made the decision to go full time with it. That's a big decision for a household, and it's a big risk. But I mean, there wasn't even a single bit of...
Like, what now? Or
there wasn't a hesitation. It wasn't what about this and what about that. It was if you believe in it, make it work.
And I think that's the thing.
Don't get me wrong, we're skint, but
skint, but happy. I do feel like that thing is, if you do believe in something, particularly when you run a charity, that is, you have to really believe in it. You have to really believe in it, and you have to keep recycling the ideas. You have to keep regurgitating new ideas. You need to be fresh all the time.
Yeah.
You need to constantly be ahead of yourself. That must be exhausting.
Yeah, but I mean, from a fundraising perspective, it's try to think about new ideas, keep it relevant, keep people interested. You know, I think it's really, really important that I mean, we talk about Red Hot Ball, but we've also got like Tea Jenny Ladies Lunches in a great place. Your comedy, there's so many other things that are in a great place. But I think that's because...
You're going to link all these in the show notes, Derek, yeah?
Obviously. But I think... But that's because they almost reinvent themselves every year, and it's interesting for people who come along to... You know, I don't think they're regular charity events. I think there's I think there's a wee bit more to them.
They're fun events that just so happen to be
fundraising.
For a charity.
So it's kind of that flip. But I think the important thing is the fundraising. So that, but I quite enjoy that.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I said that must be exhausting, then I looked at you. And I was like, no, that's you must love that. Like, you actually,
no, it's great. I think anybody that create, you create something, but you create something with a team, because it's thankfully it's not just me now that's doing that. But if you take the work of the organisation, as you mentioned earlier on, we've got Vicky Garrick on board. Now Vicky's there because she's, in my opinion, the best at what she does. Yeah. And the fact that we've got her on board and so passionate about what we do, and obviously we've worked with her through her life in the NHS for many years, but the fact that we've got her on board just brings a new level of credibility at what we do. It means that we can bring so much more to the people that we're trying to help and fulfil that vision. Karen that's come on board with us as well, and as we grow, it's...
Well, you give more, don't you? You can give more as you grow, and you can and we're, provide more. Yeah,
and we're absolutely seeing that with the vision moving forward. We've got our scholarship programmes flying. Last year's scholarship programme, 100% of the kids that sat highers passed.
Do you know what I find incredible about that scholarship programme, when you've talked to me about it as well, is the fact that so many of these people that go through that programme wouldn't have got through their higher education without the support of it.
So some of the kids are told not to sit their exams.
I mean, see, to me that is like that's the sort of thing that makes me quite emotional, because it's like, to cut somebody off or to not give somebody the chance just because they're unwell is wild to me. It's like that you don't recognise people's potential, and you're not giving people the chance to be a person because you're not letting them move forward in however they think they will.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's given people a platform to excel.
Yeah.
That's not
to be them
in general there.
Yeah. And it's incredible.
You know, so I mean, when you're looking at the services just now that are growing with the foundation, our mental health service for adults is flying. This year our paediatric mental health kicks in as well. Towards the end of the year you'll see groups or events, teenage events, primary age events, adult events this year, but not just in the west of Scotland. Edinburgh, we're in the north. Like, sadly, one for the north get cancelled because of that mad
Storm
wind.
Ewan.
Yeah, him. He caused a bit of a stir.
Is it Ian or Ewan?
Ewan.
Ewan.
I think.
E-O.
I think it's Welsh.
Don't think anyone needs to hear me try to figure out how to say
no,
that.
No. But yeah. Everybody was like, it'll be a storm in a teacup. And it wasn't.
No, it was a proper big bad storm.
Yeah, they were actually right to shut everything down.
It's probably the right thing. Now listen, we're at that point, right? It's like charity's smashing it in terms of all of the things that are happening, the really important pieces that have all come together, and that's what it feels like. It feels like they're all pieces that are all needed, that are all required.
Yeah.
You've taken a lot of time to figure out what people want. Like, I think that's maybe the difference that I find when I talk to you, and maybe it's because I suffer from IBD and I understand what it's like to have that, but you listen to people and then you create services.
Yeah.
Often what happens is organisations tell people what they want, right? And that might not necessarily meet the same like kind of requirement, might not be what people want. So that's the first thing. But when we go into like, so everything's ticking over, things are going well, you run ragged but you love it. What comes next? Like, what's the big dream for the Catherine McEwan Foundation?
Yeah, we're definitely working on that dream. Most definitely, I think within our community, the foundation families, I like to refer them to.
That's a nice thing to call it.
I do feel it's a family feel. I really do. And you know, there's so many people that mean a lot to us, that have been on that journey. And you know,
that's really nice. It's made me a wee bit emotional.
It's quite nice.
It made you emotional.
Yes, I believe it's quite special.
That's the most sort of slightly shy I've seen you ever be in your entire life that I've ever met you.
have my moments.
But you love your team, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. I think you have to, but you know, people that are coming along to our events and supporting, and you know, I'm talking about, you know, even all the IBD nurses that we meet, the clinicians, the researchers that were involved. I mean, they all, to a person, believe in what we do.
Yeah.
And they kind of get it. No, they don't kind of get it, they do get it. And it's a real honour and a real privilege to for them to be part of the journey that we're on. You know, I think lockdown was a terrible time for everybody, for lots and lots of different reasons, especially our community. I think we adapted it quite well, and we created stuff to support them and all that kind of stuff. And oddly, it worked for the foundation, because coming out of lockdown, I was like, right, okay, I mean, we've been
locked in our houses.
Full time with the charity for a year, and then so we had the Red Hot Ball 2020, and then
just before,
and a week later we were locked down.
That's mental.
Because we were joking about, we'll lock down and wear masks and da.
Well, we all were at that point. We were kind of not taking it seriously at all.
But what happened was that it coming out, that when you started to come out the other side, that so we need to fundraise and do this. And I went back to the board and I says, look, bouncing around for fundraiser and trying to put on events, need to actually take a step back and kind of have a rethink where we're going as an organisation. And myself and Leslie Lee, actually, we sat in a room.
A legend.
She is that. She is that. She'll be awfully embarrassed we've mentioned her now.
I know, let's just keep mentioning her.
Yeah. But honestly, she was... I just had, and I still do, I have too much in my head, and she was brilliant at pulling it out.
That's amazing.
And we spent, I don't know, a couple of months, once a week, just, right, what about this, and understanding this.
And you need that, don't you? Because you can't just keep all that in your head.
Yeah.
You need to be able to bring it out.
But what that does, she says, well, what's your goal? And I said, well, look, our community's nowhere to go. We should be building centres. And that was a trigger moment, because it was something that I really believed in. But then when you started to break it down And one of the biggest catalysts for this was our community days. So we've been doing community days for 20 years.
That's incredible.
Right, so bringing people together, doing workshops, doing talks. We've got our clinicians, our IBD nurses to take part in it, and having a bit of fun element. Maybe if they're at M&D's, they go into the park after it, or the Amazonia, or if it's at the Science Centre, or all sorts of, and maybe put some entertainment on for them. In fact, one of the things, I mean, sadly we lost Mallorca Lee last year. And he would come and teach the kids how to DJ.
That's amazing.
Like that. It's one of, there's a couple of great pictures. It's one of my fondest memories of him. But there was always that element. But what you have, Aarti, in these events now, see when people get together under a shared experience, there's a real magic happens.
Yeah.
A real magic.
Yeah.
Because even though I know a bit about Crohn's, I don't know what you're going through day to day, and I didn't know what my mum was going through day to day, and anybody else who we meet. I can try and understand it, I can empathise, I can be there to support, I can listen, all good stuff, but there's nothing quite like somebody being on the team, and there's a real powerful magic happens, and even after all these years of doing it, and I still love it. You know, I watch it.
Must be amazing.
You watch people, and it's just, it blows me away. Because you know that something as simple as contact and from isolation is really difficult to quantify, but it's so powerful. But what happens is that the people that come to these days, it's a snapshot in time. And by a snapshot in time, I mean, you get the people who need you at that time or need something at that time. Now that might be they've been newly diagnosed within a certain period. So their heads are spinning, they don't know where to go, and they're looking for answers, and they're looking for education and all that kind of stuff. You maybe get the people who are going through a hard time, maybe going through a flare, maybe their meds are changing, maybe they've got an operation coming up or something like that. And then you've got the odd people who will come to a lot of things because they want to be there for other people. But if you take, so you're getting a really small percentage. But what if when somebody needs you next week? Do they need to wait another year for that event, or 8 months or whatever? So out with the clinical environment and their regular appointments, that there'll be 10 minutes and somebody just talking to them about their, and this isn't a criticism in any way, it's what the consultants need to do. Nobody's there for them at all. So
no one ever asks you how you feel, Derek. No one ever asks you how you feel when you get diagnosed.
No, because there's a problem inside you and they want to fix it.
And it's the most important question you can be asked.
But holistically, but they don't, I mean...
It's like, what's happening?
Yeah, there's strange.
Your brain's going, aye, right, okay, I've processed that.
Yeah, so what the idea, not the idea moving forward, what we are moving forward with is, we used to call my mum Wee Katie. We're moving forward with a concept called Katie's House. We're currently in talks with the council about looking at land for Katie's House to build a centre for inflammatory bowel disease for non-clinical support.
So will that be like 365 days a year? If you have IBD, you have a home to go to?
Yeah.
I mean, that just made me quite emotional, right? Because I'm very much, as you know, like generally well, but there are times where there's very few people I would ask for help because I like to pretend that I can do it all myself. Yeah. But see if I knew I had somewhere to go, and I genuinely could just be like, I'm going to go down and talk to somebody else. Because I tell you something, see when I meet someone else that has Crohn's now, we have a conversation. It's weird. It's like it's like when I meet another Indian person, I'm like, oh great, but it's like that shared experience cannot be bought. No. And the fact that people would know they had somewhere to go. Yeah. And I mean, you briefly mentioned it to me, but tell me, what would the services be that would be available? I know you're very much at those early stages, but it feels very real, doesn't it? Oh,
it's absolutely real. And at a reasonably advanced stage, still got a bit to go with, but you know, we're a couple of years down the line on the concept and developing that and tweaking that and making the relationships that we have to. But what we're doing is, without the bricks and mortar, we're building the services and the support of Katie's House. Yeah. So what you're seeing just now with the charity and the support services that we're shaping and led by Vicky, is that we're growing the mental health support. We're growing the scholarship. We're growing our wellness programme. Yeah. We're growing our events for our support events for all age groups, to name but a few. So all these things are happening kind of without a home. So that when we open the doors of Katie's house, they just fit lovely in there.
That's lovely.
You know,
it's almost like you've bought the furniture but you've not got the house yet in it.
That's exactly. I love that.
Got the furniture, it's all chosen, you know where it's going, you just don't have the house yet.
That we don't. So we've...
But it's coming.
It absolutely is. And I'm going to share this. We have taken a little space in Govan, just at the cross, in a new development called Water Row, and we've got a shop front there. Yeah. A shop front development, and that will act
That's new for you as a charity as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got a little office just now, but that shop front's going to be there for us, and that'll act as our office space, but we're also going to have some therapy space in there as well.
Brilliant.
So that people can, it's almost like a halfway house to Katie's house. But the other thing to think about there is that not only will we'll be able to offer a number of services there, whether it be group services or one-to-one or whatever the case may be, a drop-in for a coffee morning or whatever. It's something that you mentioned there is really important, is that, you might have all these therapies, you might have that's accessible, you might have these activities that are accessible because there'll be gym facilities and all that kind of stuff in there as well. But it's community driven. There'll be a cafe. I mean, if you're having just a shit day, you can just jump in, have a cup of tea, you know, and you might want to talk about it and you might not.
It's somewhere you feel safe, isn't it?
You hit the nail on the head. It's a safe space. It's a place, and you know, sometimes I shared this when I was on one of our wellness walks a couple of weeks ago. We get a girl that was on it, and she got quite emotional. The fact it was going to be there, and she see the fact that that's there, and you know it's there. I might not use it very often, but the fact that it's there. So the concept is to have the first one in Glasgow, and then geographically build them over
Just
time.
Amazing, so amazing.
I
honestly think it's such a beautiful journey as well to have come from where you were when you were 16-year-old Derek, giving it, fuck, what do I do with this? Then you had the wilderness years, then you started the charity almost by accident, and now you're at a place where you're going to provide a home for people that have IBD, and they can go there and just be there. They don't need to do anything, but if they want to, there's loads of services that they can access.
Yeah, and something that you touched on, and just to be clear for the people watching, we don't create these. Yeah. The community creates them, because we are constantly asking, what do you need? What's going to make your life better? What, you know, so our community, our people are shaping the services that we are growing,
that they need.
You know, for example, we're at this very moment we've started a programme only for parents, because
that's great. What
we're seeing is, and again by listening, is that some of the kids are getting on with it, but the parents are in, you know, they really need support, they really need help, they really need the tools to be able to support their kids better, and that's we're creating that along with Mark Brown at MB Programmes, because people are asking for it.
Well, listen, that's the thing as well, like, it doesn't really matter the age of the kid either. Like, I was 40ish when I got diagnosed, right? Obviously I'm still 38 to the outer world.
How's that time machine working out for you?
Yeah, it's working out fantastic, thanks Derek. But like, my mum didn't know what Crohn's was. No? I think half my family's got IBD, they're just undiagnosed, right? And the thing that she really struggled with, I think, at the very beginning was she could see my butt, right? So when I had my first op, she could see it. And obviously what she could see was not pretty. Now I've got a big smiley scar and it's lovely. Kind of looks a wee bit like Catherine McEwan.
Well, we modelled on
it looks
you.
Like, right? But it's like...
Oh, no. No, it's got a name.
It's like when you look at my arse, that's what that looks like without the eyes, right? But it's like, at that point, as a mother, like, because even though I'm 40 years old, my mum is still like, what the fuck is happening to my kid?
Yeah, do you know?
And it's that process, isn't it?
It's.
I was just like, let's just go on with it.
Yeah,
and then I would cry.
It's funny
for ages
because the getting on with it was a bit harder than you thought.
Aye.
It's funny that you say that because we've been talking about it in the office this week. Because I'd said to Vicky, see when she's saying parents, what are you saying there? Because you never stop being a parent. So if somebody like you diagnosed a little bit later than the norm, your parents still. So they don't stop. So your mum's still worried about you.
Derek, my mum. See, without my mum, I wouldn't be sat here. I wouldn't be talking to you about it. Just being honest, like when I came out of the hospital, she stayed on my couch for like 8 weeks. Right, wow. Somebody else was in the bedroom. Like my cousin was staying with me at the time, and she never moaned. She just got on with it. But she also would shuffle, and that's what I call it. Would shuffle down to the doctor every day to get my stitches done and my dressing done and all that. And she was with me every step of the way. And I remember watching Downton Abbey with her, and we would just I would be lying on my front because I couldn't lie on my back. I'd be lying on my front, and she would just clock each other, and her joy kept me going. And that's maybe the only point in my life where I think I was probably depressed, but I didn't really know it, right? Yeah. And it was like pure Ma thing. Like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
She's like your comfort blanket, isn't she?
Absolutely.
And she's making sure that you're safe and by being there.
That's it.
No,
and say you don't beautiful. Have that though, like I'm very aware of how lucky I am. Some people don't have that.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
And if you don't, again, you need somewhere safe to go. So again, it comes back to the Katie's house thing. It's like that's what that space is going to be for people.
Yeah, that.
Not saying that you're going to be everyone's dad, by the way.
No.
That's a whole fucking weird
so a big part of what we do is we get people phoning us for support and a chat. And do you know what? See, one of the biggest things, some people just need to be heard and and hopefully understood. Yeah. So I've done that for many years. Not obviously not any medical advice or something, just a kind ear.
Just listening.
And
it's the best thing you can do for somebody.
But Vicky does that now because she's got a bit greater skill set. But she selfishly took a holiday last week.
What?
And you're talking about people not having anybody. So I ended up in a conversation as if, sorry, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about it. I'm obviously not going to mention any names at all. It's totally confidential. But so the iPhones that's been put on, and he's not really got anybody, and he's been in the wilderness and nobody's understood him, and he's starting to understand his scenario. And you having your mum there was the exact opposite of what this guy's experience was. Really,
he was just like left.
Yeah, and even the people that were around him, they didn't understand him, and he recognised that created a level of toxicity in his life, and he.
That's amazing.
No, it's brilliant that he recognised it, because he was starting to. He was starting to self-manage better and understand his body, and understand that the mind was connected, the gut-mind connection and stuff like that. Yeah. And it was just amazing, because he'd been in this kind of no man's land, and he had it for a long time. But he said, are you okay to talk just now? And I said, aye, of course. I said, you've probably got me at a brilliant time. I'm driving, and that's the best time to get me, because I'll not be distracted. Yeah. And he went, that's brilliant, I'll not be distracted either. And I went, aye, are you driving as well? He says, no, I'm in a bath.
Could you just hear the splash in the background? Why do folk do that? Why do folk phone you from the bath? That's brilliant, man.
And I'm like, brilliant.
Well, thank you for your time.
Just for that, you've just absolutely given me a vision.
You should set up one of the old school dial phones and a bath in Katie's house, that if you feel like you need to speak to somebody but you want to do it specifically undistracted, there is a room for you to go to. Listen, me and you, right, we could talk obviously forever, but
Grant's got a family going on.
Grant's right, let's wrap this up. Myth busting. What is the one thing that people think about Crohn's and colitis that you would just like to shut down right now? Do you know what? There's loads of them, and I don't necessarily. I don't think. Well, certainly, and it's only my perspective.
not enough people know about about inflammatory bowel disease for a myth to be created.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's an education thing, and the fact that there's such a level of ignorance for people to understand. Oh, you've got a couple of problems with your stomach.
You go to the toilet a lot.
You go to the toilet. Yes, that's a wee shame.
Shat yourself.
But people.
But that's it.
But it's an educational thing. So I would kind of flip that round to say it's not myth busting. I would just like more people to be educated.
Yes.
And understand it, because you're talking about people that on the outside maybe look fine, or then the next day they're the invisible conditions and all that kind of stuff.
Invisible condition, isn't it?
But I think the thing that I would like is better education, not just education within our community
for everyone,
but education for everyone, definitely to understand it.
I think that's a really good shout. My last question for you: if Katie was here, what do you think she'd say to you?
Well, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing the job. Well, saying that, who knows?
Say if we both believe in the spooky and she's just appeared, she sat here. What would she say to you? Or what would you ask her?
Do you know what? I don't actually know. Talking about
oh my God, he's speechless, guys. What the fuck?
Now and again, she'll pop up in a dream. And it happened probably, I think last week actually, for the first time in a long time, and I wasn't freaked out by it. I was quite comforted by it. I can't remember what happened, but I was quite comforted by it anyway. And I always, because I actually said to Jules, I said I had a dream, and so she would probably be mortified that her name's out there, and she's like, semi-famous. I suppose. Oh no, because she's kind of bashful and shy and very humble to a fault. You know, it's like the old was it a Monty Python sketch when they they're chopping the limbs off them, but they're still going. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about? And no matter what happens, they still kept going. Oh, I'm fine. I mean, that's probably my mum was inflammatory bowel disease version of that. I'm fine. I'm getting on with it. Getting
Falling
on.
apart, but keeping on going.
Falling apart, but keep going. Going to the shops.
Well, thank you very much, Derek.
Love that.
I really enjoyed that. I actually really enjoyed that, mate.
No, it was
Thank
good.
you very much.
Is
there anything else you want to tell people before we go?
No, I mean, I just want people just to keep following GUTSY, follow the channels. If you can get behind any of the work that we're doing at the Catherine McEwan Foundation, we'd welcome it. Most importantly, but reach out, ask us questions.
And where can they do that?
Well, I think they could just come through the social channels, most definitely. Facebook, Insta, whether it's GUTSY or whether it is the foundation.
Website as well?
Yeah, website. So we're always...
Which is CatherineMcEwanFoundation.com.
The very one.
Thank you very much.
Or GUTSYPodcast.com.
Yes, or GUTSY Podcast.
But yeah, just don't be sitting alone, don't be isolated, because there is help there.
I would back you up on that. I would say until I met you, I mean, fuck's sake, I'd never really talked about having Crohn's ever. Since I met you, I don't have a problem with talking about Crohn's at all. In fact, I'll tell folk that probably don't want to hear about my smile on my butt, and I think that there's something really empowering about that. The smile on my butt.
No, but
do you know what I mean? And it's lovely. I feel like I'm part of a club that wants me.
Only some of them. No, seriously. I mean, I know we're finishing up, but you're right. See, sharing a story, whether it's your journey with Crohn's or whether it's another challenge in your life, it's better to be spoken about. Yeah. You've got people in your life, or if you find those people that you can reach out to, and that's so important, because it is liberating. I know that it was liberating for me, because I never spoke about. And I never spoke about my journey till much later on, and it's really, really helped me. But importantly, it's helped other people.
Yes.
So I mean, the thing is, you might think you're yourself, you might think you're at a low ebb, and you might be,
but you're not.
But there's help.
Yeah.
There's help. Thank you, Aarti.
Good place to end it.
Yeah.